All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are going to go ahead and get started with our Director of Athletics, DeWayne Peevy. Coach Holtmann is coming from a team event, so we'll get started here with DeWayne. If you all will use your raise hand feature, I will get everything pinned here. DeWayne, is there anything you wanted to open with here?
Oh, well, just good to see everybody. Hope everybody's had a good summer. It's amazing how the college landscape has changed since the last time I've probably seen these names or any of you in person. But looking forward to the year ahead as our fiscal year just ended and, the start of July. And so we're turning the page and looking forward to the conversation today.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and get started with John.
Hey, Dwayne, I just wanted to see if there would be any opportunity to get an update on the progress with the City of Chicago's zoning on the practice facility and where that stands.
Things are progressing. We don't have I don't have a schedule date to be able to tell you, but we think that will have us in front of the city council here in the early fall once school starts. And our fundraising is progressing alongside of it to make sure that's not wasted time. I feel really good about the direction that we're going with our both our fundraising and those things to be able to line us up to break ground in June of 26, which would put us in the new facility in the fall of 27. And so things are progressing at a level. I mean, obviously, not a lot of things happen in the summer anyway, but we feel pretty good about being able to get on that agenda. We're in line. We had to get back to the committee on some different notifications. And so everything is now fully in the city's hands, and we feel pretty good about where we are in the process.
Excellent, thanks.
Nick.
Dwayne, with the House settlement really taking effect starting in early July, what is the most significant change that you've had to change in the athletic department to help accommodate the House settlement?
I think it really started last fall. I feel like we were working on this, knowing that it was likely to happen. It would have been a lot better for us, Nick, to shift back to what we're normally doing than try to scramble with, and especially the way things worked out with April 7th not happening and then getting all the way to June. We were really ready to go for April. And so I think for us, having a campus partners across the board, Taylor Stapleton kind of led the charge with working with all parts of campus to make this a process that we could do within our campus partners. A lot of schools are doing it differently. Some are doing it through their collective because they already had those things in place. We work with our partnership with Teamworks and their Teamworks wallet and GM applications to work through with our financial aid office. So everything is coming into DePaul and going out through DePaul in their systems. But we were able to do that with our campus partners. But that took about 10 months for people to understand, and it's a lot of work. Actually, got a chance to thank some of those folks here this week, and that's one of those things that's unique about DePaul, especially me coming here and not knowing and being in COVID where I didn't know anybody. 5 years later, we were able to come to a partnership where we can work this in through campus and our normal processes to make sure that everybody's involved, from whoever needs involved, from the financial aid side to risk management to human resources, to make sure we're equipped for wherever this is going to. And so it enabled us to take in fundraise dollars internally, use our a development office so that way we can take stock options and tax deductible gifts and being able to use those things in all our fundraising. So our efforts are really stretched out, where our four full-time fundraising offices are really fundraising for our capital campaign that was mentioned earlier, and our Doug Bruno fund, and our fund for basketball excellence to really help fund our revenue sharing opportunities for these student athletes that are going to be playing here in the fall.
Andy.
Dwayne, I had less of a big picture question, but still one that kind of relates to what you're building. Obviously, after the college basketball crown, NJ Benson went on the record and said that he valued his relationships at DePaul way more than money in terms of like transferring to a different school. As you're trying to obviously turn DePaul around and really build like a program with Chris Holtmann and a culture, what did that mean for you as an AD when you heard him say that?
it was neat, and I was glad that Peter Tombasco and I were sitting there when he said it, because reading it might have been a little different and surprising. But that's NJ. I think he came here for those relationships and the truthfulness that not just our staff could exude, but the administration that's behind him too. We want to see him succeed, but that just shows you the trust that's going on. And I tell a lot of my colleagues, not necessarily specifically about that to betray his trust, but like, we're in an environment where our young people still want to be coached. They still want to be developed. They still want to be a part of a community. They still want to be, hey, I'm connected to DePaul when I leave here too. And that's where these relationships matter. And obviously, if you're not somebody that, that's not a focus normally, it's probably advantageous for it to be a focus now going forward, because the price of this business and going out in free agency every year is not good for anybody. So the retention is at the forefront. So for us, those relationships probably started the retention process with a kid like NJ that would come in and, going to play a major role for our team next year, that he had a really good time, not just based on with his relationship with his coaches or on the court, but everything around it. And hopefully those will be things that help us in the future. When those alums go out there and talk about their experience here, it's important. We've got a lot of our veteran alums that can still get out on the court coming back during this week. Just being around, I love the summertime in Chicago because the people are visiting. Everybody wants to come by and visit. And it's been a lot of wows from folks like Paul Reed that got into the gym for the first time in the renovation and was like, DeWayne, I can't believe what y'all done with this place. Like, it's like he's lived it. He's been around it. And so those relationships start from just the recruiting process. That's probably my favorite part of the job, is sitting in the office with the recruit and his family, about thinking about this place, right? And so when they first get here, the relationships they have outside of the basketball family are us, because it's the only people they know. And so how that relationship grows, and I feel that from the kids that are new to our program this year on the men and women's side, as much as the ones that came in last year. And so NJ is just a perfect example of that, a great young man, that is on a journey, right? And we're alongside with him, helping him, being there for him for the ups and the downs of it all, whether he got injured last year and, obviously seeing how we didn't shy away from him and the metamorphosis. If you look at him last year from where he was in the fall at the start of the season to where he was at the very end, that was a journey that we had to kind of go with him as he grew. And so now he's coming to this. If you've seen him, he's in the best shape of his life. He's now in a leadership role, and we're counting on more production that comes along with that too.
Ashley?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, have you been to any of the team's off-season workouts? And if so, what have you seen from the team that has really stood out to you?
Yeah, I just actually came off. I've come to a few of the practices, actually just watched them work out today. And the biggest thing that stands out to me is our size and length compared to last year. If I look back, and it's kind of like I didn't realize it last year, but we were a lot younger than it felt like. Mainly because we didn't have a lot of freshmen, but we had a lot of sophomores that hadn't played a lot of minutes at this level. And then this year's teams feel like we got a lot more experience. One, we've got our, top 3 possible returning scorers coming back with NJ, CJ, and Layden, that have been through it. Obviously still having Teo and Nate that have been around. We didn't have any of that the year before. But when you think about the size of us, we look more like a Big East team because I looked at the court. We were doing a little 5-on-5, and there's not a lot of room out there. It seems like the court shrunk on us in a year, but because we're just bigger and longer. So think about it. When you think about the scholarship players, the only people that are under 6'5" is Layden and RJ, right? It's a big change of what you're seeing on the court. And so as we, continue, probably in shooting stretches of that floor too, right? You had to stretch out further to guard guys, but the middle just seems a lot packed with a lot more length. I'm pretty sure Brandon Bailey, who's kind of our defensive coordinator sources, probably has a lot more tools in the toolkit. I think we could be a better rebounding and defending team from the start. And then I'm anxious to see how this offense evolves, after we get all our pieces here as well. But I would say great start. Got a long way to go, but I love this time of year of learning that we now went from 14 new faces with nobody returning to where we have 5 returners and we're, 10 new faces. And so, we want to flip that a year from now. I'd love to have 10 returners and we only got 5 new ones, right? To get to the point where that retention is such a big part for us. But I do like it. We got a lot of guys that can make shots, that can score a lot of different ways. But I think from a defensive and a rebounding standpoint and just size and length, we look a lot different. I'm sure our team photo will look a lot different in comparison.
Joey?
Hey, DeWayne. Looking back at last season, I just want to know your overall thoughts on what you think about the job that Holtmann did in his first year, and how excited you are for year 2 in the Holtmann era.
Yeah, when Coach Holtmann and I had our initial talks, especially after, he was our coach, we talked about what success would look like and what do we want to see in year 1. And I think we checked all those boxes. We wanted, I wanted to know how we play, what is DePaul basketball, an up-tempo style. We want to score early. We want to be able to shoot on the perimeter. We want to have some dynamic offensive players to us. And I think we've complemented that with this year's roster based on what we had last year. But I also wanted to see that culture piece. And I think in a short period of time, we defined who we are as far as who we recruit, kind of players and student athletes we want to have as part of our program. We had a record high GPA last school year. And that's a big shift and turn to make in 1 year when you pretty much can tell what we're all about and who would fit and knowing what you're walking into, whether that's families, that's where there's, kids that are getting recruited off of Zooms can feel like when they come to campus, they know this is a family and we're part of a community. And I think we've established a winning culture too. So it's not just about having good people around, but when you walk out there, we had a couple guests at practice today, and they just talked about our staff and just like, man, like last year, yeah, we knew that we had a bunch of people with head coaching experience, but it's a unique staff to put together. And it's just such a comfortability when you look at them working together, like they've been doing this a long time. And as you know, we just kind of put those pieces together last year, a year ago. So I think job well done, to get from 3 wins to 14, get a taste of postseason again, to see what it's like to be able to play another game in the Big East tournament and keep playing. Now it's, the way I look at it, you'll probably ask Chris and he'll have a higher ceiling than where I want for the next step. I just want to keep taking steps forward, right? I want to get to a point. How do we get to the next level, which is, doubling up our Big East wins? How do we work toward the next level of that? How do we work toward the next level of being above 500, 500 above in the year? And that's kind of what I'm looking at from both our basketball programs, making that step forward and whatever else can come with it. Obviously I'll take more than that, but I'd be disappointed if we don't take that next step. And as you look at our, season last year, if we go 2-3 in those 3 overtime games, during regular season, it's a different set of circumstances, what we consider a step forward would be. And so I'm looking at it from that standpoint, not just having 5 conference wins. That's not a step forward, but where can we be in the mix to be able to start working toward, earning postseason access again, even with the new format.
John?
DeWayne, a lot of creative stuff coming out of your marketing and licensing groups over the past few weeks with the race car at the Chicago race, and then as well as the update to the branding. What are some more things that you could share with us as far as what's in store for this season from a fan perspective, kind of geared around all that stuff?
Yeah, one of the things from a merchandise and licensing standpoint, it's the first year that we were able to plan with our staff last year some items that we'll have available for our fans in the next year ahead. If somebody that deals with it enough, it takes you a year in advance to do some of that planning. And so we actually sat down with our staff on some of the things they were ordering for our staff to wear. And that's usually a popular opinion from fans. I want to wear what I see on the court, but those things aren't sinking. So my hope is that we should be able to execute some of those this year, where you'll be able to purchase some of the things will be in stores that our coaches are wearing for the first time and things that we were designing. So you probably heard that a lot. Well, we just designed it for our staff and we just printed it for us. And those are 2 separate processes. John McCausland, who our director of basketball operations, and, Lindsey Martin, who's our senior associate AD for merchandise and licensing, they had some conversations. And so some of those items, and maybe that's something we can kind of pinpoint for future to have more things in sync so you can buy what you see on TV or while you're in the arena. The other thing is that we're going to expand a little bit. Our season ticket holder event is going to be a little different. I'm not going to give away all the good parts about that. We're going to try to make that bigger and better for those that are buying season tickets, whether that's the renewals or the new season ticket holders. We want to have a first-class experience and get a chance to where you're an extension of our family. You're the backbone of how we do our business. And so we want to keep rewarding those folks that continue to, come along this ride with us directly in that. And then I'm looking forward to the things that my goal is. By the time we start the season this year, we've already impacted our scheduling in men's basketball for the 26-27 season. So those are some things that I'd like to see us take that next step. One of the things you'll probably hear from Chris a little bit is that when we look at our overall schedule, you might look at the schedule and think, well, maybe it's not as heavy as I thought it would be. When we look at our overall schedule and, obviously Northwestern and Wichita State were still on the schedule last year, but we severely upgraded the top half of why we start our schedule by having Loyola and Notre Dame in our exhibition games. We'll know a lot more about ourselves early on. We'll play Northwestern in the second weekend of the season. And then we have our Destin event in that tournament with LSU, Georgia Tech, and Drake, where we didn't have anything like that last year. We went to Texas Tech, but I think we'll get a lot more out of that event to get us prepared and ready, along with the road game at Wichita State to get ready for Big East play. And then next year, my goal is, okay, how do we advance that even further? I'm looking for some home and homes with high major basketball teams. We're looking to add those to our schedule because, we have the Northwestern series that continue. Wichita State technically rolls off. And so we've got room, especially if we add a 30-second game to our schedule. We have room and we're looking for opponents. And so we're looking for, those Power Four conference opponents that are ready to spend, one of their trips in Chicago with their, various alumni bases are here. So we're open to suggestions that people are looking for. We're looking to add some home and homes for some high quality opponents to bring people to Wintrust, but we're willing to, to travel as well.
Nick?
DeWayne, with the speculation about the NCAA tournament potentially expanding, a lot of the fans of college basketball don't want it to expand. They think 64, 68 is the perfect amount. How do you kind of feel about NCAA tournament expansion?
It's very interesting, Nick. I mean, I remember when it was 64 before it came 65, and I kind of felt like it should stay where it is. And then 65 became the norm, and then now it's 68 became the norm. The way I look at it as being in the business, I think whatever happens is going to work itself out. I think obviously for the Big East and our peer group, we will be in the mix if there's expansion, especially, because we got a bunch of those bubble teams that have been there traditionally. I don't think it's going to affect us. I mean, because I think we're targeting to be above that 68 line, but I don't think it dilutes it if we were making a tournament that had a few more spots, because you're talking about some, if you look at the parity in college basketball right now, it's at its highest peak, in my opinion, about the amount of quality teams that could be left out of the NCAA tournament. So I have no problem if they make a decision to expand, then I'm all for it, and I'm ready for us to get back into it one way or the other. But if they don't, I'm good with that too, because what we're shooting for is much higher than being 68. And so, but as a purist, I think we've been out of those waters a long time ago. I mean, these tournaments used to be 16 teams. And we keep advancing and we keep talking about it. But I think it's very good play. I'm interested in the structure. But I think the way things are going with some of these power conferences combining so many bids is pushing some of us out. Then we probably definitely need to be looking at the value of what, a 500 season in the conference is different than it used to be. Right. And I think, as you start looking at that and what schools are doing in non-conference play and what it matters, there are some teams that are kind of left on the bubble that are quality enough to make a run. How many teams have we seen? I mean, you remember when VCU made a run from the first four, when we were first starting that and getting all the way to the Final Four. There's some very quality teams that could be on the bubble that can get to the second weekend. And that's where, it's up for grabs. And so I'm in favor of it if that's something we want to do. But I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, but really tradition's kind of gone out the window with the tournament. So I wouldn't be opposed. I'd rather cut down the amount of teams in the NITs and what they're seeing that's going on in the crowd and have more teams, those top teams, get a chance for the NCAA tournament.
We'll take these last two here for DeWayne, and then he can stay on when we get started with Coach Holtmann. It looks like just one. Ashley, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is, you were talking earlier about like the team taking steps each season. For this upcoming season, just what do you think the ceiling is for this team considering those steps and why?
Well, I think, ceiling is something I'm not used to being comfortable with. I feel I'm a dream big guy, as you know. So the ceiling is that, I'm not going to shortchange this team of what they're capable of. But I definitely think the upside of this team is being in the NCAA tournament this year. And that's going to really rely on the guys that we're returning. If those three guys can have all biggies, nominee type seasons, we can go very far. But but there's a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds, or at least it used to be, that we're deciding on. But, I don't think those are the expectations. I think there's a lot of room between where we were last year and to that part. But if things go, we're still playing basketball, right? And, the ball bounces a different way. We've got 3 more wins in the regular season without asking for but maybe 3 or 4 possessions. So it doesn't take a lot. But I do think that's our upside, is being in the NCAA tournament this year, because that's why we do what we do. That's why we put all the work in. That's why Chris and his staff are working hard to recruit and put together a really good group of young men that can play a lot of different styles and different ways to win games. And I think we're more equipped for that. But obviously, we've got to go play the games. And, I'm not watching the other teams every day as I'm watching us. But I do think that's what our ceiling is. I think we do have the potential and upside to be playing in late in March.
All right. Thank you, DeWayne. We will go ahead and bring Coach Holtmann on the screen here and get started with questions with him. And we'll start with Nick.
Chris, just some housekeeping in terms of injuries. With Amsal, has he had his ACL surgery yet? And the second part, have anybody else of your players needed any kind of off-season medical procedure, anything like that?
No, we just him, Nick, and it was disappointed for him, disappointed for our team, because he was going to be a unique piece for us, and that he could play a couple different positions. He was going to provide, a guy that could play two different positions and also provide depth in his shooting at his size. He's 6'8". His shooting as his size was really attractive for us. He has not had surgery yet. They had to wait on some of the just medical stuff. But obviously he'll be out this year, and we're excited about him returning for, the following season, and, medically redshirting this year and having a full off season next year to be a part of DePaul basketball. So we've already had that conversation with him and his agent and his family, and it's exciting. That part's exciting. It's obviously disappointing because he was going to certainly be a factor in our rotation. There's no question that Amsal was going to be in our rotation this year.
Andy?
Coach, I just asked the same question to DeWayne, but obviously after the college basketball crown, when NJ says he values his relationships here more than any sort of financial stuff in terms of transferring, what did that mean for you going into only your second year here as you're trying to establish a culture of consistency at DePaul?
Yeah, I think you hope to, in today's climate, you hope to recruit kids where that matters and where playing for the program matters. And I think I've mentioned that we saw that example of a couple guys last year, older guys, where them leaving a legacy really mattered to them. It mattered that they left the program better than what they found it. And that was a really powerful thing. I think for NJ, as you guys know, we had to basically keep him from coming back too early. He wanted to come back earlier and play than what he could, and obviously gave us a big lift towards the end of the season when he was able to return. But no, relationship, that's a real thing for NJ and his family. He's not just saying that. He's a great kid. Jack Owens has done a terrific job building a great relationship with he and his family. They're really close. Jack does a great job. They're really close as a coach and player. And then obviously other guys on staff have done a great job as well. But it does matter, and that's a real thing with NJ and his family, and we're glad to have him back.
Joey?
Hey, Coach, going up that a little bit, as you're trying to build something here in year two and beyond, just how important was it to, get NJ, CJ, and Layden all back for your second year here?
Yeah, no, that was priority number one coming into it, Joey. That was priority number one. Is one, you got to take stock of who you want to return and who you feel like fits. That's just the reality of today's world. Let's not sugarcoat it. You're taking stock of who you want to return, and then also you're evaluating, do they want to return, and then can both parties come to an agreement on what NIL looks like. So those were conversations that were had before the season got over with. And, there are three players that for us to be able to grow as a program and be better, they need to take another step. I don't know. I don't think we can be a team that takes another step forward if they don't just grow as players. So it's on us as a coaching staff to get them better, and it's on them to continue to grow. So those three were really important for us, and I think they love being here, and they're workers. NJ's probably had the best couple months that he's had since he's been here on the floor in terms of his conditioning, his fitness, and his overall play. And those other two guys are continuing to have a good summer too. But they really need to take the next step for us to be a team it's improved.
Ashley?
Hi, Coach. I've seen the posts about your team's off-season workouts, and I just want to know what has been the focus during those off-season workouts, and how do you hope for that to translate on the court?
Yeah, a couple things. I think you've got, Ashley, a few things that, you can't get everything mastered in the summer. You have 8 weeks to work with your players, and there's a bit of a time crunch on that. So you're trying to condense it into a few things. When you take stock in the off season, you say, okay, what are some things we did well? What are some things that we need to improve on? We've tried to attack some of those things around rebounding the ball better, becoming more efficient in the half court offensively, becoming a better defensive team, and becoming better at transition defense. We're not going to get great at all those things, but those are things we've really tried to focus on. On top of that, you're trying to learn about your team. I heard DeWayne mention we have a bigger team. We do have a much bigger team. We also have a little bit of a different team in terms of its makeup. I'm not sure right now if we'd say across the board we shoot it quite as well. I do think we'll shoot it well. We'll continue to play the way we've played. But I think we're trying to learn about our group as we move forward, and that's a big part of summer.
Nick?
Chris, I know because of recruiting rules and stuff, you can't comment on a international player who potentially could be coming here until it's official. So let's take it in this sense. How has international recruiting been different this offseason, given the state of the student visa programs, getting them over into the U.S.? Kind of what have been some of the challenges there?
Yeah, it's been a little bit more complicated. It has been a little bit more complicated, and there's some countries that it's going to be a much longer process, Nick, than what you'd like for it to be. But it has been a little bit more complicated, a little more time consuming. Everybody is recruiting internationally right now. We'll see if that trend sticks for the next several years. When I got the job here, I said we were going to recruit internationally because we live in an international city. So it just made sense for us, in my mind, to continue to tap into that. So Coach Brian Mullins has went over to the U18s and the U20s both summers, and he's actually leaving again here in a couple of days. So we're going to continue to go down that road and recruit while we're at DePaul and build our roster with a player or two that's international. I just think it makes sense where we're located. But it has made it a little bit more complicated. And as you mentioned, our our roster, I would say, is not fully on campus yet, but we're anticipating that to happen here, hopefully in the next month or so.
Joey?
I want to ask about Caleb Banks. Obviously, he had a breakout last year as a former four-star prospect. Just how aggressive were you in your pursuit of him, and what's it like to get a player of that caliber to come here to DePaul?
Yeah, about as aggressive as you could be. We identified him pretty early, really even before we knew the connection with CJ, and they're really close friends. They came into Indiana together and were close friends. They have a fun battles on the court. When you put them on opposite teams, they compete and get after each other. They tend to foul each other a lot, which just speaks to, I think, the competitive rivalry between both of them. But we're really excited about Caleb. I think we've got to continue to grow him as a player. You mentioned the steps he took in terms of just being an all-around player last year, shooting the ball, getting to the free throw line, using his size and length. He's got a 7'2" wingspan, a 7'1" wingspan. And he just is really gifted with some physical metrics. And he's really grown. He's really shot the ball well for us. And I love his versatility. So to your point, we knew we needed a starting four. And we really like the addition of him, as well as Jeremy, and then Amsel, who we were going to play at the 3 or the 4. We really like that group, that contingent, and just super excited about Caleb and his development.
Andy?
Coach, I got kind of two quick ones here. First, I want to talk about Cruz a little bit. Obviously, you guys have been openly pretty high on him throughout the previous season. How has he kind of integrated himself into the team early now that you've had a few weeks of workouts under his belt?
Yeah, Cruz has been he's done a nice job this summer. Really nice job. Been really competitive or coachable. He's listened really well. He picks up things quickly. He's got a really exceptional feel at 6'6" for a bigger guard. He also has added about 12 pounds of weight. Matt has done a great job with him, and he's done a great job of adding weight. That's probably been the biggest adjustment for him, is the physicality and the speed at this level. But yeah, really excited about his young career. And we anticipate him playing as a freshman. We do. I think the only way those guys get better is if you play him, and he'll get what he earns, but we're going to allow him to play through some of the growing pains that come with being a young player, and excited about his approach and his ability to continue to get better. He's a good one, and I think is only going to get better in the coming months. But like any freshman, he's had moments where he's got knocked around in practice, and that comes with the territory.
And then also real quick, earlier in the offseason, you posted a little pull-up challenge to your team. How are they doing in that? If you can kind of keeping track of that?
I'm going to have to get back with you on that. At this point, Coach Holtmann is winning that challenge. At least half of them have to be able to do more pull-ups than me, and I have to see that. So yeah, I'll get back with you on that. I think I'm going to be in good shape come the end of the summer on that, and those guys are going to have a couple more days of conditioning, but we'll see.
Look forward to those updates.
Ashley?
Yeah, so to go back to the off-season workouts, just what have you seen from your team, whether that's with like individual performances or just how well they work together, that has really stood out to you?
Well, I think as DeWayne mentioned, just a little bit more size and length. DeWayne mentioned it feels like the court was almost a little bit smaller. We needed to be able to physically compete at a higher level. I loved so many of the moments last year where we fought and scrapped, but we just needed to be a little bit bigger and longer at certain spots and stronger. And that's not even our new guys. Our guys like NJ, CJ, and Layden had to get stronger. So that's been noticeable. But we have the potential to be a better defensive team, but we've got to do it too. We've got to do it. This is a great league, and everybody in the league right now and everybody in the country, you go on the road recruiting events, everybody thinks they're going to be much better. Well, everybody in the country's not going to be better. So they'll, for us right now, it's about coming and working and getting better every day and putting ourselves in position every day to grow. But I think that's been the most obvious thing is our size and our length and our ability to move has been good. But we're very much a work in progress in terms of offense right now, which I think is normal this early.
John?
Hey, Coach, I want to talk about another freshman that you've got coming in, Isaiah Medina. I saw him early on before he came in, and then I saw him at practice. And talk about his development from getting on camp, or from his recruitment to getting on campus, and because it looked like he put on a lot of muscle coming in.
He has. And I think right now the game's a little too fast for Isaiah, which happens for big guys. But you're exactly right, John. He has added weight and added some strength. He's a big guy that's going to need development. And I think that's just we kind of took him understanding that. For him, he's done a good job kind of getting himself involved in drills and getting learning our system. But it just, sometimes takes a little bit longer for big guys. And I think for Isaiah, this first year is going to be really important for him just to kind of learn and get better every day in practice, every opportunity that's out there, learn and get better. And so far, he's had a good approach.
Nick?
Chris, to that point with Isaiah, would a red shirt be something in play based on the things you just said, and then given Kaman and NJ a kind of at that spot on the roster?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we want to continue to evaluate as the summer goes forward. I don't think that's a decision we'll make at all until the fall. We have so much more time here to work with him, and I do think he's growing and getting better. But you know how that is if you look at a situation, you feel like a young man has potential, and yet at the same time, he may not, be in whatever your rotation looks like, whether it's 9, 10, or 11, whatever your rotation looks like, or 8 for that matter. Then those are always conversations. What's in the best interest of the kid and what's in the best interest of the program. But we're a ways away from kind of having any of those conversations.
All right. Do we have anything else for Coach Holtmann or DeWayne? Andy?
I guess just real quick, who's kind of, as you've gotten most of the team together, obviously, who's been one of the biggest surprises early versus what you saw you recruited versus when they came on campus?
Yeah. I don't know that there's been so many guys when you recruit this number of new guys, like you're wondering, for example, we need to figure out about Kaman's hands. What are his hands for a big guy? The freshman, the speed of the game. I think Cruz has done a good job picking up some of that stuff. I mentioned that. I think a guy like RJ, you can see that he's had now 3 years of college experience at the high major level. That shows and is obvious. Jeremy's physicality has been obvious. We've got to continue to get him better and more versatile offensively, being able to do some things and play the way we want to play. But you see his physicality and his ability to just play really hard with a great motor. Brandon Macklin he's got playmaking skills as a bigger guard, and he brings great energy to what we're doing. I mentioned KB and I think what his potential can be as a player. So all of those guys have had moments moments right now where you're looking at them and you're saying, hey, this is exciting for what they can grow into. And then the best thing about the summer is you also say, okay, hey, they have to get better in these specific areas to really help our team. So I think that's been been good to see and good to evaluate through these, what is now going into our 4th or 5th week. One of the things I will tell you I'm excited about doing, and you might see some clips, is we have a week that we're going to do every summer. And it's usually going to be a day or two where we call it kind of vet week. And we bring our guys that are either playing professionally or playing in the NBA, whether they're playing overseas or playing in the NBA. They come back and they go through some skill work with our guys and kind of mentor our guys on the court a little bit. And then we'll have as many former players as want to come to my house for a meal. So we're excited to do that this week and have those guys back around the program. You'll see some stuff, I'm sure, on social media with that. But that's an exciting thing for our players, exciting thing. We'll continue to do it every year. This is the first year. Obviously, we've done it and we'll continue to do it.
We'll take our last question here from Nick.
Chris, last year you mentioned not really being able to enjoy the city of Chicago because you pretty much had to build a new roster. So what do you plan to do this summer now that your roster's in place and you've already been here a year to maybe just check out the city in something you haven't really had a chance to do?
I've eaten a lot of food at a lot of different places. And I've enjoyed what Chicago provides. I think it's the best city in the world in the summer. My neighbor, when I got here, he said these 2 dates between these, dates, right at the end of spring and the end of fall, he said, it's the best. He said, Coach, it's the best city in the world. And he's been here his whole life. He's got Bears season tickets. I think he's got Cubs season tickets. And I've been able to experience that a little bit. We went to the flyover with our team. So, talking about some touristy things, we went down to the Navy Pier, went to the flyover where it goes and kind of goes through Chicago. It's a really good thing if you've not seen it, even if you're a resident of Chicago, it's a really cool thing. It's like a 15-minute video. And we wanted to take our team through that and experience that a little bit. That was a really cool experience. But I have, Nick, to your point, been able to experience it a little bit more. Summer's busy now because of, we know this because of recruiting and then your team's on campus, but I have been able to, and our family has been able to enjoy it. And, I've done a lot of walking. It's such a walkable area where I live. I've done a lot of walking and that's been really enjoyable, but thanks for asking. Those that rave about Chicago, I totally get it. But the food, my goodness, the food has been really good.
We're gonna send that clip to the Chicago tourism unit. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate all of you hopping on and spending some time with us today. We'll have some other media availabilities and opportunities here coming up as we get closer to this fall. So thank you.
Thanks for being on, guys. Appreciate you.
Get people to buy season tickets. This is the time. Jump on. There's room.
That's right. Come on board.
All right.